We find in Numbers 27 from verse 18 to 23, Moses lays his hands on Joshua, transferring leadership and authority to him in the presence of the people and in the presence of God. And this act symbolizes the passing of the mantle of leadership and the impartation of the spirit of wisdom and authority from one leader to another. And similarly, if you look at Leviticus 16 and verse 21, the high priest had to lay his hands on the scapegoat. So usually when there was a time to release a blessing and forgiveness, the scapegoat was brought into the temple and the priest had to lay his hands on the scapegoat, symbolically transferring the sins of the people onto the goat, which would then be sent into the wilderness, demonstrating the removal of sins that the people had carried. And when you consider the New Testament application, the Greek term epistetis tonkerion, laying on of hands, was often associated with the impartation of spiritual gifts, the transference of healing. So not only was the laying on of hands symbolic to the transference of spiritual gifts, but whenever one was sick, it was imperative that the elders of the church would gather around that person, lay hands on them, and they would receive their healing. And whenever there was also laying on of hands, it also symbolized the commissioning of an individual for ministry. So when you have the laying of hands, that means that God has set them aside for something to do. So when hands is laid on you, there is the impartation that takes place in the process. There is a mystical transference of grace that you need to pay keen attention to. Look at somebody and tell your neighbor, you got to pay keen attention to this.